Let's now talk about the intent of the different technologies that you're going to work with. PHP, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Let's talk about those. Okay. I think we can do this from a big picture all in one video. So I'm going to start with, let's start with CSS. I'm going to open this up. This is CSS. Okay, now this is the full version of it. Okay, you can go through and you can take a look and go, okay, what is all this? And it does things like this. We get some sort of either HTML element, like that's a body tag, or you might set a class. Okay, so that would be an attribute. Well, let's see if I've got one here. I'm going to scroll down. You can see I've got h1 dot green. Okay, so with this right here, this is the class, that's the element. All right. So you can see that. And then as you're laying these out, all that you're doing is what? Let's just take a look at what we have here. So here's a class for the screen reader. All right, so we've got a background, that's a color, that's a hex color. And we have a display, we have a height, line height, padding. Okay, width, we're not going to worry about that right now. So we can see that we have different things that we can say, all right, I'm going to take that property and I'm going to set a value to it. And that's what you're doing with CSS. Now, there's lots of ways to program CSS. You can just do it natively like this, although I don't like working in just native CSS. Why? Well, I like things to be very modular and broken up into small little chunks and by the purpose. And with this, well, this file's pretty daggone huge. Let's just go to the bottom. Watch your eyes. You can see here's the bottom. There's almost 2,500 lines of code in here. That's a lot. And working in this one file, well, one, it'd be prone to errors. And two, if I just want to change one color, well, I've got to go through and I've got to find each instance of it and change it. If I want to change the size, I've got to go through and find each instance and change it. I don't like that. Instead, what I like to do is use Sass. Okay, well, let's come back up here. We're going to come into Sass. And then notice that things are broken up into different little packages. Okay, well, let's just go into the modules themselves. So I can go into content. I can say, here's the featured image. And everything that I need for featured image is in there. Okay, here's the intro. Here's all the code for that. And if we come back out and we go components, I can say, here's my catfish right here. Okay, so then I can go and say, here's my social share. And there's all the styling for that. See how that's easier to find what you're looking for. Okay, scroll to the top is there. I can come and I can say, all right, I've got a grid. Here's my breadcrumb. There's my avatars, stuff for videos, and so on. So it's easier to find what I'm looking for. If I want to take a look again and I go and I say, there's navigation, right? So it's easy to find. So then I'm able to go and say, all right, here's my primary navigation. There's the styling for it. I don't have to search for that great big huge file. Okay. So the purpose of CSS is to do what? What's the intent of CSS? It's to add the styling. And styling does things such as being able to position. Okay. So I can say I want it on the left, I want it centered, I want it over here, I want it offset a little bit. How do I want to position it within its area? Then I have colors, I have fonts, I can underline stuff, I can put borders around things. I can make the font weight different, so I can make it really light, or I can make it really, really, really bold and thick, right? I can set widths in different dimensions for heights, widths, and so on. I can underline stuff. I already said that down there. I can animate things. I can do all kinds of stuff with styling. That's where you make your site come alive, is on the front end by how you style things. Okay, so that's the styling. That's the CSS. Let's just go back and let's open this up. We're going to look at the HTML now. Okay, so this is all HTML. What's the intent of HTML? Well, our browsers know how to take HTML, our hypertext markup language. It knows how to take this and then present it to you. Okay, so, and these have meaning. An H2 is different than an H1, is different than a P tag, paragraph tag, header. That's the first level, second level, and so on. Nav for navigation. Divs are just basic containers, right? It knows how all of these are. It knows how what it means. Now, for things like a screen reader, it knows how to read that. Another piece of software, a web crawler, knows how to read this, and it knows how to pull it apart to be able to look at the intent and the meaning of how we have our HTML laid out. Then it can make decisions on things like SEO. Kind of important, right? So HTML is giving the markup structure of our site. It's also giving it meaning. Okay, and then we use things such as our microdata to be able to go in and give it even more meaning. So we can say, well, what kind of item type is that? Well, it's a web page. Here's a header. Here's site navigation. Now, to you and I, we would look at this and go, well, to my eye, I don't care about that. No, you and I don't care about it as a sighted person as we're looking at these things. However, a machine, another piece of software that's reading this has meaning to it. It tells it a little bit more about its what? Oh, there's that word again. Intent. Right. Okay, so when I put nav here, I could have also put it as a UL or a div, but I didn't. It's a nav. Well, I didn't do this actually. This comes out of Genesis framework. But with this, then, by putting this microdata in, I'm telling you specifically what it's doing here. That's what this markup is doing. Okay, same thing down here. Here's the breadcrumb list. It's telling you, just because you have that div there, well, to a machine, it wants to know more. Well, that's what this is doing. So this HTML markup gives you structure, gives you meaning for the intent of what you want for each of the individual components on this web page. HTML does not need CSS. Nope. CSS needs HTML though, right? Otherwise, it's not going to style anything. It is styling this markup. So I can see right here, I'm going to clean this off. Body, dot labs. So I'm going to come through and I'm going to say, well, where is that at? I'm going to look and say, oh, there's labs right there. It's one of the attributes, that class. Okay, then I have dot page header. So that's down here, right there. And I want these styles for that. That's what I'm doing with it. So you see that CSS is dependent upon the HTML. HTML is not dependent upon CSS. We can wipe out the CSS on this. Let's do that now. So if we come into head, we're going to scroll down to the CSS. Let's go do that. Do this with me because I want you to get in the habit of being able to separate the two in your mind. Okay? I don't want you just thinking that, well, I've got to have this and that. No, they serve different purposes and different intent. Okay? All right. And because I'm talking, I can't see it. So there it is right there. So I've got the style sheet. There it is. And I can see themes. That's my theme. And I can come in and I can say, you see, I right clicked again, delete element. So delete that out. Now, notice that my styles are all gone, but I still have my HTML And if I close this out, this is what it looks like. Okay, this is what a machine sees. So like when we have that web crawler, it's looking at this HTML. A screen reader, it's looking at the HTML. Okay, so web crawlers do lots of things. They come through and they scrape to be able to pull content into some sort of database for maybe there's some analysis that it's going to run, or it's trying to look at different trends of things. But it's also for Google and SEO. Okay, so that's what web crawlers do. Well, there's some nefarious ones out there too, but this is what its main purpose is. And then you've got your screen readers. So you can see without having any styling, you can see how things get laid out, right? And then the styles go and add that personality back in. So let me go and refresh. And as this loads up, see, it looks very different. That's the intent of those two. Okay, how about JavaScript? Okay, well, if I come back over to here, this has a lot of JavaScript in it. This right here is actually CSS with some JavaScript drawing on a canvas. That's pretty advanced. Let's don't go to that site. Let's look at this one. I'm going to load this up. And then I'm going to start to scroll. And there's some JavaScript right there to make this appear. So JavaScript helps us to have it be much more interactive on the front end. Okay, well, I have another one here. Let me show you this one. So if I open up the FAQ here and I go and I click like this, you can see, watch this interactivity. It slides up, slides down. By that clicking, I'm making things much more interactive on the front end for the user, right? So that's what JavaScript does for us. It actually sits out here on the front end. It runs in the browser itself. And then it allows us to do things like having different click events. We can animate stuff. We can go back to the server with Ajax or REST if we want to do that. We can go back and say, would you please give me some more content or check this or do something? So then the server goes and it runs some PHP on it, goes and maybe asks the database for something and then sends something back. We can change all the content on this page running Ajax. We can do that. Okay, so that's the intent of JavaScript. Makes it much more interactive. All right, well, I just brought up